Let me tell you something that nobody in your life has had the guts to say to you. You are not broke because the economy is rigged. You are not broke because your boss doesn't pay you enough. You are not broke because you didn't come from money. You are broke, and you are staying broke because of a set of decisions you make every single day, quietly, automatically, without even thinking about it. And here's what makes it worse. Most of those decisions feel completely normal. They feel justified. They feel like what everyone around you does, which is exactly the problem. Today, I'm going to walk you through the real reasons you're still a poor person. Not to make you feel bad, not to attack you, but because nobody gets out of a hole they don't know they're standing in. So let's go. The first reason you're still poor: you've been taught a version of financial wisdom that was specifically designed to keep you from building wealth. Think about the advice you grew up hearing. Money doesn't grow on trees. We can't afford that. Don't talk about money, it's rude. Just work hard and you'll be fine. Now, I don't want you to disrespect the people who told you these things. They meant well, but here's what those sayings did to your brain. They trained you to think of money as something scarce, something shameful, and something that just happens to you, rather than something you build. That is a poverty mindset, and it doesn't look like ignorance. It looks like humility. It feels like being grounded and realistic, but it is a financial prison dressed up in sensible clothes. Rich people don't say, "We can't afford that." They ask, "How do I afford that?" That one shift from a closed statement to an open question is the difference between a brain that stops thinking and a brain that starts solving. Here's the thing about mindset. It's not fluffy, motivational poster nonsense. It is the operating system your financial decisions run on. And if your operating system was installed in a household that struggled with money, it is running code that was never designed to build wealth. The good news: you can rewrite the code, but you have to see it first. You are spending money to feel rich instead of becoming rich. Here's a question I want you to sit with for a second. When did you last buy something? A pair of shoes, a phone upgrade, a dinner out? Not because you needed it, but because it made you feel like you had money? Don't answer that out loud. Just sit with it, because this is one of the most destructive financial behaviors in the world, and it is absolutely everywhere. I call it performing wealth instead of building it. Performing wealth looks like this. You get a tax refund, and instead of paying off debt or investing, you buy something you can show people. New sneakers, a weekend trip, a new TV, and for about 3 days, you feel great. You feel like somebody. And then the feeling fades, the money is gone, and you are exactly where you were before. Except now you've also got new sneakers you don't actually need. This isn't about being cheap. This isn't about never enjoying your money. This is about understanding the function of your spending. There's a principle I want to introduce you to. It's called delayed gratification and study after study, going back to the famous Stanford marshmallow experiments, shows that the ability to delay gratification is one of the strongest predictors of long-term financial success. But let me make it more practical than a psychology study. Every dollar you spend today is a dollar that cannot work for you tomorrow. And money, when invested, doesn't just grow, it compounds, meaning it grows on top of its own growth. A dollar invested at 25 years old is not worth $1 at 65. It's worth anywhere from $15 to $30, depending on your returns. When you buy that $200 item you didn't truly need, you didn't just spend $200. At a 10% annual return over 40 years, you just spent over $9,000. That is what that purchase actually cost you. The price tag in the store is a lie. Poor people look at the sticker price. Wealthy people look at the opportunity cost. Start seeing your money that way. Your relationship with debt is costing you everything. Let's talk about debt. Specifically, let's talk about the kind of debt that has most working class and middle class people absolutely trapped, and why most people have no idea how bad it actually is. Consumer debt, credit cards, buy now, pay later, car loans on depreciating vehicles, personal loans to cover lifestyle gaps. Here's a statistic that should make you put down whatever you're doing. The average American credit card interest rate is currently hovering around 20 to 24%. 20 to 24%. Do you know what a guaranteed 20% return on investment looks like? It looks exactly like paying off your credit card. There is no stock, no index fund, no investment vehicle on earth that will reliably give you a 20% annual return. But every dollar of credit card debt you're carrying is costing you that much, guaranteed, every single year. And yet people will ask me, should I start investing while carrying $8,000 in credit card debt at 22% interest? And my answer is no, absolutely not. You wouldn't fill a bucket with water while it has a hole in the bottom. You fix the hole first. But here's where it gets really insidious. Debt doesn't just cost you money, it costs you freedom. When you have significant debt payments every month, you cannot take risks. You cannot leave a bad job. You cannot start a business. You cannot say no to overtime you hate. You are financially handcuffed to your current situation. Freedom of choice is the currency of wealth. Debt destroys it. Now, I know some of you are going to say, but what about good debt? What about mortgages and student loans? And yes, we need to have that conversation, but not before you understand this baseline. If you are carrying high-interest consumer debt right now, that is financial poison in your veins. Everything else waits until you address it. The debt snowball, the debt avalanche. Pick a method, but get ruthless about eliminating it. This single move will do more for your financial life than any investment tip, any side hustle, any market trend. Kill the debt. Get free. Then we build. You don't have a budget. You have a wish list. I want to ask you something honestly. Do you know exactly how much money you spent last month? Not roughly, not approximately, exactly. If the answer is no, and for most people the answer is no, then you don't have a financial plan. You have a financial hope, and hope is not a strategy. Here's what most people do. They get paid, they pay the bills they can remember, they buy the things they feel like buying, and then they check their account balance somewhere around the 20th of the month and think, where did it all go? That experience, that confusion, that helplessness, that is not a bad luck problem. That is a tracking problem. You cannot manage what you do not measure. That's not a financial quote. It's a management principle that applies to literally everything. Your waistline, your time, your money. If you're not measuring it, you're not managing it. You're just reacting. A real budget, not a wish list, not an estimate, is one of the most powerful tools available to anyone at any income level, because a budget tells your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. That sentence, by the way, is from John C. Maxwell, and it's one of the most quietly revolutionary ideas in personal finance. Now, the budgeting method I always recommend for people starting out is the 50-30-20 rule. 50% of your take-home income goes to needs: housing, food, utilities, transportation. 30% goes to wants, and 20% minimum goes to savings and debt repayment. But here's the important caveat. If you are in debt, that 20% goes to debt first. If you are debt-free, that 20% goes to building an emergency fund, then investing. Automate it. Set up automatic transfers to your savings account the day after payday. Pay yourself first, because if you wait to see what's left at the end of the month, the answer will almost always be nothing. A budget is not a punishment. It is permission. Permission to spend on the things that matter with zero guilt, because you know the important things are already handled. You're relying on one income stream. I want to share a quote with you that I think about constantly. It's often attributed to Warren Buffett, though the origin is debated, but the idea is real. Never depend on a single income. Make investments to create a second source. Most working people have exactly one income stream, their job. And I understand why. Jobs are familiar, jobs are stable, jobs are what we were raised to pursue. Go to school, get a job, work hard, retire. That's the script. But here's the problem with that script in the modern economy. It puts your entire financial life in the hands of one entity, your employer. One decision from them, a layoff, a restructuring, an automation rollout, and your entire financial foundation collapses. That is not security. That is a single point of failure, masquerading as security. Wealthy people, almost without exception, have multiple income streams, not because they're greedy, but because they understand risk. Multiple income streams are not a luxury. They're a hedge. Now, before I lose half of you who are thinking, I don't have time for a side hustle, let me be clear. I'm not just talking about working more hours. I'm talking about passive income, money that works while you sleep. Dividends from stocks, rental income from real estate, royalties from digital products, interest from high-yield savings accounts or bonds. These are not get-rich-quick schemes. They are systematic, boring, proven strategies that compound over time. You don't build a second income stream overnight, but here's the truth. The best time to start was 10 years ago. The second best time is today. Start small. If you have $50 a month, you can invest. Invest it in index funds, in dividend stocks, in a high-yield savings account. Anything that generates a return beyond your labor. Over time, you build a second stream, then a third, then a fourth. The goal is simple, even if the path is long. One day, your money earns more than you do. That's when you are financially free. And it starts with understanding that your job is not the destination, it's the fuel to get there. Your circle is keeping you comfortable in the wrong direction. This is the part most financial educators are afraid to say, so I'm going to say it clearly. The people around you are shaping your financial reality, whether you like it or not. If everyone in your social circle is broke, eating out constantly, making fun of people who invest, calling budgeting boring, or normalizing paycheck-to-paycheck living, you will trend in their direction. Not because you're weak, but because humans are social creatures. We normalize what we're surrounded by. Jim Rohn said it most famously, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." And financially, this is measurable. Research on social influence consistently shows that spending habits, financial risk tolerance, and wealth accumulation are all heavily influenced by peer groups. This is not motivation poster philosophy. This is behavioral economics. Now, I'm not telling you to abandon your friends or your family. I'm telling you to be intentional about who you learn from and who you spend your financial energy with. Seek out people who are where you want to be, not to brag or to compare, but to learn how they think. Read their books, watch their interviews, join their communities, listen to their conversations about money. Because the person who spends every weekend complaining about how hard it is to make money and the person who spends every weekend learning how to build wealth, in 5 years, they will live in completely different worlds. Choose your influences intentionally. It may be the highest leverage decision you make. Let me bring this home for you. You're still broke or still struggling. Not because the world is against you. The world is largely indifferent. It doesn't care whether you build wealth or not. You're struggling because of a combination of inherited mindsets, behavioral patterns, and financial habits that were never designed to make you wealthy. And those things are changeable, every single one of them. Let me summarize the 6 reasons we talked about today. 1. A poverty mindset disguised as common sense. You were taught to fear money instead of build it. 2. You're spending to feel rich instead of becoming rich. Performance over progress. 3. High-interest consumer debt is silently destroying your financial future. Kill it first. 4. You don't have a real budget. You're reacting, not planning. Measure, then manage. 5. You're entirely dependent on one income stream. Start building a second one, however small. 6. Your social environment is normalizing financial mediocrity. Upgrade your influences. Now, here's what I want you to do. Don't try to fix all 6 today. That's how people get overwhelmed and do nothing. Pick one, just one, the one that hit you hardest while you were watching this. Write it down. Then tell me in the comments, which one was it? Because I genuinely believe that the moment you see the cage, you start finding the door. If this video added value to your life, share it with someone who needs to hear it, not to shame them, but because sometimes the most generous thing you can do is tell someone the truth. Hit subscribe if you're new here. We do this every week. Real financial education, no fluff, no get-rich-quick schemes, just the work. I'll see you in the next one.